Hello and welcome back to Crusader Kings 3. I'm Lord Forrend, here with another guide on the game. This time we're going to go over what to do with members of your family that are not your direct heir or your direct heir heirs. So in this case, we have an empire of Britannia with a couple kingdoms within it. We have a 33-year-old ruler, and we have an heir who is 16, who has just recently married somebody. So let's quickly just talk about heirs directly, and then we'll go on to non-direct heirs. This guy has the comely trait. When I married him off, I made sure to look for a positive physical trait for his wife. That's why he married her. She's not worth anything, really. None of her parents are really valuable. It's more for the trait. So basically, when you marry your heir off, look for good traits. That's the simple part. Now we start to get to non-direct heirs. So let's go a couple days forward. There we go. So I have the main son, and then I've got 3 other sons and a daughter. And the daughter is about to turn of age. So what did I do with her? I looked around in Europe. In this case, I ended up in Italy, which, by the way, is basically non-existent, but it's still a kingdom, so I can show you the impact. Just imagine Italy was much larger rather than the Pope. It's kind of strange. So we've got the ruler of Italy. We've got his direct heir. And now think about this, right? It's still inheritance by the eldest son. So who's this heir is going to be? He owns no titles, which makes this much easier. His heir is going to be this person who we just betrothed to our daughter. He's 7, she's 14. Yes, there's quite an age difference. They won't marry till he comes of age, but the key point is I got a matrilineal betrothal. I was able to do this because his father does not own any provinces. So the game does not consider him a likely heir, meaning there's not 1,000 penalty for marrying a potential heir, which there can be. If you try and marry a direct heir of a title, usually, specifically like a kingdom or an empire, you're almost never going to succeed because there's a negative 1,000 penalty. So that's why you have to look and plan generations ahead. The key point is to set up people so that when other people die, whether by nature or by nature, that you will eventually get your dynasty on the throne. And I have set this up. So when this guy dies, his heir is going to take over. When he dies, it's going to go to his grandson, right? So 3 generations, same family. However, when this child dies, assuming he has kids, which the odds are he will, his heirs will be of my Wessex dynasty, which means in 4 generations, not the current one, not the next one, not the next one, the 4th one, my dynasty will now take over Italy. That is one way to do it. Now, I thought I did this. Did I mess this up? Here we go. You can also do it other ways. And this is what I did with the other son. And it's, again, dealing with Italy, just because Italy is the only one that has children of the proper age at the moment. So I found this son, and I engaged him to another one of the King of Italy's children. In this case, his daughter. The ages are more equivalent. And she, as a matter of fact, is one of the heirs in the case of this guy dying. So she's got 2 siblings. She is the second child. So she's got her older sister could be an heir above her, and obviously her brother's an heir above her. If we killed off her brother and both of his children, which you could do through murder schemes and everything else, then she and her siblings would become heirs. Now, if we killed off her older sister, doing the whole murder scheme, she would then inherit the Kingdom of Italy. And because she's normally betrothed, the game will not break a normal betrothal or matrilineal betrothal once it's set up. But it's harder to get them than it is. It's hard to get them initially, but the AI won't break them. So in that case, she would become Queen of Italy, and she'd be married matrilineally to this guy. And so when they have children, it would be of our dynasty. That's just one way to do it. It usually involves murder or clever marriages. So in the first case with the daughter, I've already set it up to succeed. I don't have to do anything. So long as they have children and they don't lose the Kingdom of Italy in the meantime, my dynasty will inherit. In the second case, with this son, I would have to murder 3 people? 4 people. I'd have to murder him, his 2 children, assuming he doesn't have any more, and then the older sister, and then she would inherit. If I wanted to make it even stronger, I could get rid of her younger sister, so she would be the sole heir. And then if I wanted to take it a step further, force the inheritance sooner, I could then assassinate the king. But that would be harder than his heirs. It's much easier to get heirs than it is kings. So the problem is when you look at your dynasty and you click on a character and then you do marriage, it doesn't actually do the right things. Yes, it shows the people who are the most relevant, and you can sort through this: power, prestige, rank, age. Rank is good for male ones offhand because it tends to find like countesses or duchesses that are not married. The downside is it doesn't think 2 generations ahead. So like grandchildren or great-grandchildren in some cases. So you have to look for it. So this is where the game gets tricky, and you can spend hundreds of hours looking at it. So we can look at this guy and go, okay, he's king. What has he got for heirs? Okay, so he's got multiple sons, right? Multiple sons is actually, I find, an easier way of getting your dynasty on the throne. If you can't do it, just do a simple marriage. Because usually 2nd or 3rd sons you can do matrilineal marriages with. So if you've got any like siblings or cousins, like this is a niece of our ruler, right? We could... Well, we can't do it that easily, but we could find ways to marry her off to people in the long run. It helps with children. It's much easier with children. But if we had another daughter, for example, we could probably matrilineally marry him off to this one, or maybe even this one. It would be a little tough. He's already married, though, so we've got to ignore him. This one is not married, though, so we could technically arrange a marriage if we had a daughter with him. And the odds of us doing matrilineal would be pretty good. And then, of course, we assassinate the older siblings and all their children. This is where intrigue is key. It's why this tree here, Schemer, and basically so long as Schemer exists, you can assassinate your way through stuff. Now, doing it with your cousins is much, much, much harder. There's almost no way to pull it off, guaranteed. It's much easier with your direct children. But what you can do is marry off your siblings to important people. It's going to be a bit tricky. So in this case, we had a daughter of the previous emperor, right? Basically, I have found as a rough rule of thumb, all your children should marry to try and keep your dynasty on the throne. Unless, for example, you're marrying for alliances for that current generation and you don't care about, spreading your dynasty. Like, for example, if I could normally marry the Byzantine emperor's son or daughter just to one of our children without any issue, I'd probably do it just because it's the Byzantine Empire and they're massive. Obviously, it would be hard. I couldn't marry into this because of the religion issues to a large degree. I mean, I could do something, but it probably would not accept because of the different faith. So you can only marry within your own faith, which makes it, well, your overarching faith, like Christian compared to Muslim, compared to Jewish, compared to Hindu, for example. Even though there's subdivisions, you can only marry overall within your religious group. That would be the best way to say it. Religious group. It's all about the marriages. It really is. If you're lucky, you can do stuff like this. This guy we could marry off to this daughter and they would accept. So let's move a few days forward, get that marriage acceptance, right? Okay. So he has agreed to marry one of his daughters to our son. I think it's this one. Yes. No, it's not. It's this one. Okay, so we go back to him and we go and say, okay. Actually, in this case, it won't work. He's got way too many children. But we could start assassinating them. And then when he dies, we start assassinating her. Actually, we'd probably go for her first and then work down those kids. And then there's the chance that the one who's engaged to our son would take over. And then when they have children, her children would be of our dynasty. His son or daughter, probably son, would take over and we gain the province. Now, this is a bit of a extreme example because this guy's a simple count, but you can do this with duchies, you can do it with kingdoms. If you're extraordinarily cunning, you can do it with empires. So he's going to have her as the heir. She's going to have her son as the heir, assuming that is available. He is not married, so we could, if we had another daughter, I should have checked this first, we could have probably married him to the daughter of us matrilineally because he does not have any heir anywhere. If you look up there, it does not say heir to anything. If it says heir to stuff, it gets a lot harder. He's not heir to anything, so we could matrilineally marry him, and then when he has children, our dynasty would take over. But it's, 4 generations away, and it's through an amazing network of weird things. So the easier way to do this, is spread your dynasty as far and as wide as you can. So just from here, I am an emperor. We have a king of a dynasty, 3 dukes, a baron, and 4 counts by marriage. Part of the reason you want to spread your dynasty is for the renowned, basically. So this queen of Galatia, I believe, is the, in fact, person who is the queen or king equivalent. Because if you look over here, she's a member of our dynasty. Not a member of our house. She's of the Gloucester house. But she is of our dynasty, so we do get the bonus. I don't think I can actually look into... No, I can't actually tell which king it is. But I'm pretty sure it's her. Because she's a cadet branch of our overarching dynasty, which has quite a few houses, as you will see, if part of it. And this is just me not even really trying much. I've basically just been marrying matrilineally and normal off, and over time it's been spreading. Here's Gloucester. Yep, she's of Galatia. That's how we're getting it. It's a cadet branch. Quite cool. That's how you spread them out. She and her children, she should, assuming she has, yes, a male heir. In fact, this is kind of weird because he's going to inherit, but he's not of her dynasty. So we're going to have to assassinate him. For some reason, she just married normally to a random count. Really wish she hadn't. She was probably married to someone else first. Really what I should do is assassinate him. And assassinate both of them, to be honest. Although she's 57, so the odds of her having children are difficult. Otherwise, I would go through and assassinate them. To keep our dynasty on the throne. As it is, once she dies, our dynasty will no longer have that throne, which is a pain. But if we worked at it, looked at him, see if he has any children, which he doesn't. If he does have children, then we marry them. If not, we start looking at her sibling. There's a granddaughter. So we could do a arranged marriage with the granddaughter and the son. They would not accept, though, because I have too many existing alliances. So be aware this is a thing. And you'll see that she has an heir too. And immediately there is a patrilineal marriage of -100. This is basically saying I'm an heir to something. I am not going to marry my heir, or I'm not going to, in case they are choosing for themselves. In this case, it's her father choosing for her. Not going to marry somebody of the dynasty when there is a chance that the house is going to change. If we didn't have as many alliances, which we have a fair amount, we would succeed because we have splendor, opinion, and everything else. Key part is the splendor. This is where prestige helps. He has 700 prestige just for being a child of an emperor. That weighs a lot into marriages. It's why under legacy, there's also this desirable match, marriage acceptance plus 30. That's where that applies. This is why you would want to use that. In fact, that's why you have the renowned name afterwards as well to boost it. With those two, the chance of you getting a marriage, much, much, much higher. Reason you'd want to take bountiful loans here is the fertility applies to all the members of the dynasty. So that applies to this queen. So she's got a +10 fertility. Obviously, she's in her 50s. So unlikely to have children. But it applies to all of them, even minor ones. I don't know. I don't think I can show you what our dynasty rules, unfortunately. Well, I could look under the dynasty tree if we want to take a while. Oh, here we go. We can do rank. Even better. So you can look at these. So this person is a king of Wales. He's of our dynasty, but we don't get the bonus because he's within our realm, which is kind of annoying. Otherwise, we'd have 2. And then there's the Queen of Galatia, and then there's a Duke of East Anglia, which is our vassal again. So I don't believe we received the bonus. Then there's one of Lorraine, who's a vassal in the Kingdom of Leeds. Should we get a bonus from him? There's one down here in, well, Lyon. So there's a benefit there. And as you can see, we've picked up quite a few people of our house, dukes, all across the board. I didn't focus any of this. They did this on their own. Most of this was spread on their own. There's very little effort. As long as you do the correct marriages with the children, they're all descended from one person, basically. Marry them off. Make sure they're matrilineally married off. I don't think I've married off any of the daughters non-matrilineally for several generations. Assuming they've been married, they almost all have been married. You see, she had children here. She was the great aunt of our current ruler, or grand aunt. She matrilineally married. Her children had that as well. Of course, her female children are going to marry and lose the dynasty. But in case she had a son, in this case, he's a count. Oh, actually, he's a mayor. He married, had children who are of our dynasty, and they are extremely unrelated to us, but they are still Wessex. So that's how it works. Marry them off. Go look through, not for the non-heirs. You can do it with the heir too. In fact, you're much better off looking for your direct heir and then marrying them to somebody with a title, because you can actually marry heirs with your heir. With a little conniving. It's kind of interesting. So you can have children inherit 2 titles. Play the Game of Thrones, basically. If you start as a duke, you can work your way up to a king of your dynasty, even if it's not your direct heir. It just takes time. The goal, really, in some ways, is to have as many members of your dynasty as possible. I've got 248 living members. My Mali Empire, I think I had like 800 living members. It's insane. The AI doesn't focus it enough. It's pretty much due to the correct marriages and taking the fertility plus 10. It's really strong. So, wish I could give you guys more details. It's hard to marry off cousins. You can kind of marry off cousins within your realm to people within your realm. It's tricky. I can't really explain it very well in this circumstance, but hopefully this has helped. Sorry if it's not more helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Check out my other guides. They're probably better than this one. If you watched this far, please do like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys all in another video. Bye for now.